A lot going on in Israel right now, as it seems that they may be priming Israel and Gaza to go into a ceasefire, actively ending the war in Gaza. Now, this is something that we have heard about a countless amount of times at this point. So, don't hold your breath. However, coming on the heels of what happened in Iran and everything else that's happened in America, and the deals that are being struck, and the Abraham Accords updated, there's a lot of chatter that would lead you to believe that there is more to this than maybe previous attempts at this. And I want you to hear straight up off the bat from Benjamin Netanyahu, who, as you know, has not really been someone talking about a ceasefire very much. He's been someone saying, you know what, the goal has always been to defeat Hamas completely, but maybe we can accomplish a few different missions.
Of course, we will also need to resolve the issue of Gaza to defeat Hamas. But I believe we will achieve both missions. Beyond that, broad regional opportunities are opening up, in most of which, almost all, you are partners.
Right now, Ron Dermer, the Minister of Strategic Affairs, he's the former ambassador to the U.S. from the Israelis, is coming to Washington to meet with the Trump administration. And he's kind of seen as almost as Bibi Netanyahu's right-hand man in this. He has been leading the hostage negotiations with Hamas. So he's right in the thick of this. And what we're looking at now is what President Trump said to the media at the end of last week, is whether or not he said, I think we can get to a ceasefire maybe in the next week. With that, in light of the all the things that are happening on the ground with the decimation of the proxy Hamas that Iran has, Iran doesn't really have the capabilities to prop up these proxies right now. Could this be an opportunity for President Trump, the art of the deal maker, be able to get in there and do something truly historic as he's already been doing?
This is not a war that started October 7th. This war, honestly, has been waged against Israel's existence since the beginning. We're approaching 100 years of this war, and I think maybe this is just a timeout to figure out a plan to really end this forever war. And I think that with Donald Trump in the White House, with the support of Republican House and Senate, I think now is a good time for Israel to reorder itself, focus on getting the hostages back, and think about a longer-term strategy than just win a battle or win a skirmish, but actually try to end this forever war.
This also comes when the members of the Israeli administration have been involved in conversations with America, and some of those do involve the releasing of the remaining hostages, or at least again, it's sad to say this, but a portion of those remaining hostages. And there may be some deal on the table to, again, put this finally to bed after a couple years. And I think you have an Israeli people that has finally seen what it's like to have relative peace over the last few days, last few weeks. But of course, over the weekend, it got heightened back up. There was more missiles being shot. More stuff started happening. When that happens, I think they go, wait a second. Remember those nights we had that were kind of peaceful? We're a peaceful people. Let's see if we can get there. And with the United States' help, maybe we can get there even sooner.
The Israelis want to take out Hamas.
Yes.
And I think what's going to be interesting to see is what plan or deal comes out of this. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of chatter.
Yeah, will they soften on what that means?
This could be an opportunity that the Trump administration is going to maybe push for this and may be able to bring it about as a part of an Abraham Accords, that a group of Arab nations take over control of Gaza, the security, as well as the U.S. having oversight with diplomats and things within the rebuilding of Gaza.
Very interesting. Could be very interesting.
Now, historically, that's not something Israel would love.
No.
But could the Trump effect have something different? Could more Abraham Accord countries come on board that now they have normalized relations with, that these aren't enemies at their doorstep? These are now trading partners. Yeah. And I think we should listen to what Steve Witkoff said.
Yeah, Steve Witkoff, again, CNBC, just a couple days ago.
One of the president's key objectives is that the Abraham Accords be expanded, that more countries come into it, and we are working on that on my team and in coordination with the Secretary of State and the entire State Department. And we think we're going to have some pretty big announcements on countries that are now coming into the Abraham Peace Accords. And we're hoping for normalization across an array of countries that maybe people would have never contemplated would come in. So we're excited for that prospect. That will also be a stabilizer in the Middle East.
Well, why don't you give people who maybe don't understand sort of an understanding of what his role is in all of this?
He is basically the envoy for the president with all of these high-stakes negotiations.
Sort of a liaison.
He has been the negotiator with Russia and Ukraine. He has been the negotiator with Iran until that fell apart. But Iran is still kind of looking about maybe coming and having some talks again. And he also has been involved in just about any hot point negotiations. He's like the lead negotiator for the U.S. And when he talks about expanding the Abraham Accords, the original signatories were Bahrain and the UAE. And then Morocco and Sudan soon after followed. Now, these are all countries with a long history of no dealings with Israel.
Yeah, a lot of times there's issues, passport issues.
Publicly against the state of Israel. Now, these weren't necessarily, except for maybe Sudan, where there could be a hotbed of terror, and Morocco as well, but where radicalized people could get out of there. They weren't necessarily military threats to Israel and to the existence of Israel, but it's a big signal because, once again, Bahrain and UAE, both big money countries in the Middle East. The next steps that they're talking about, some of the chatter online, some of these experts that are analyzing things, and what they're seeing is that it could be Saudi Arabia, which they were very close to at the end of the first Trump term, but then after the debacle of 2020 and the Biden administration's foreign policy, that fell apart. So that could be an option returning to the table. And when he mentions even countries no one would have thought of, the two that are popping up are both Lebanon and Syria. Lebanon, now the leadership of Hezbollah, which has a lot of influence on the country of Lebanon, the government of Lebanon itself would be a lot easier to deal with than with Hezbollah. If Hezbollah has now been decimated and could strengthen the real leadership of the Lebanese government, you could see something remarkable there, and that would be an enemy to the north that could be then a friendly to the north of Israel. And then Syria, another bordering country that was a proxy of Iran. Bashar al-Assad was propped up by the Iranian government. Now, there's a lot of other geopolitics you can get into. Yes. The leader of Syria now, former al-Qaeda guy, not someone you necessarily want to be a leader of a country, but he's trying to push to be on the world stage.
Yeah,
and President Trump,
2001,
we know, is pushing him to, hey, you want to show that you really want to join the world stage? Make a deal. That could be completely something novel, something we've not seen in our lifetime.
Yeah, this could be one of the first times, in the last couple of years, we actually see some movement. And look, when you see the extreme anti-Semitism that's come out, you also have to remember now, we're seeing, I would say, a stronger response than we have had in 2 years, where people are going out and saying things. You may have seen stuff over the weekend, whether that is in New York City, whether that is in London, wherever it may be. And you actually see the people in the government and the media say, you know what? It's too far. Maybe we are seeing those signs of movement and change